I worked over 90 hours, 4 weeks in a row. I was so tired I could barely see straight. I didn't get any overtime pay, so if I worked 90 hours in a week, I worked 90 hours and got no overtime and no life.
President Biden could single-handedly transform the economy by ensuring that tens of millions have bigger paychecks, more of their time back, or both. Here's how. Until the 1970s, the rules were very simple. For most salaried Americans, if you worked more than 40 hours a week, your boss was required to pay you time and a half for every minute you worked over 40 hours. More Americans had more time to spend with their families, on vacation, or in their communities. Not anymore.
My name's Rebecca Latham. I worked as a restaurant manager for 14 very long years. I averaged about 60 hours every week. I basically lived at work and slept and ate only at home. I miss so much of the kids. Being at home with Douglas when he was little, the first time he crawled, his first steps, I felt like I never saw my baby. I'd get home on my days off and I would just sleep. I didn't get to be the mom. I didn't get to be my husband's wife. I was the GM.
Republican and Democratic presidents alike have allowed overtime protections to waste away over the last 4 decades. More than 60% of salaried workers used to get overtime. Today, that number is as low as 13%. Right now, the overtime threshold is $35,000 a year. If you make more than that, chances are you are probably not getting paid any overtime.
They gave everybody a raise to just that $35,000 to avoid paying overtime. If we worked a ton of hours, then sometimes we would have been getting less than minimum wage, really. There were several times that we had to apply for food stamps with me working all those hours, and we couldn't afford to eat still.
The good news is we don't need Congress to restore overtime protections. President Biden could direct his Department of Labor to raise the standards at any time. And the higher he raises the overtime threshold, the larger the number of Americans who would benefit. An $83,000 annual salary threshold would ensure that nearly the same percentage of Americans today enjoy overtime protections as they did when the American middle class was at its strongest.
If I had been where I could work 40 hours a week at that time, it would have changed my life. I would have not only been able to see my family and do the things that I wanted to do and feel like a person, but I would have also been a better manager.
If you hear CEOs whining about overtime, it's total BS. If we don't want to pay overtime, all we have to do is send our workers home at the end of the day. And if we need more work done, we can pay overtime or just finally hire enough people to get the job done.
I was doing at least my job and probably 3 others at the same time. So they would sacrifice us and take those hours away from people who needed those hours.
And that's why restoring overtime protections would be a job creator and also the crown jewel in President Biden's economic agenda. By restoring overtime protections, President Biden will recommit to the 40-hour work week that made the American middle class so great.
I finally work at a bank now, and it's so amazing. I actually have time to see the kids. I've got weekends. I've never had weekends in my life. I have a life to live now. They say time's money, but can you really put a price on time?